Let's get more. Join Simon McGregor-Wood, who has been listening into that speech. He joins us from Hannover. Simon, let's start on that point about those additional troops. That brings the number of US troops now to 300 in Syria.
Yes, that's right. This was one of the trailed elements of this speech that he's given here at the Hannover Trade Messe, the exhibition that the Americans started back in 1947 to help Germany rebuild. We knew this announcement was going to come, and he confirmed it, up to 250, including special forces. These are people who will be based in Iraq. Previously, they have been liaising with anyone who's been willing to take on Daesh in northeastern Syria. Up until now, of course, that's been the Kurdish forces. We understand that one of the reasons for the deployment of this extra contingent, and it's not only special forces, it'll be logistics people and medical experts, we believe, is to try and better coordinate Sunni tribal fighters in the area to get more involved in the fight against Daesh. This is part, of course, of the long-term US-led coalition efforts to push back Daesh. It's happening. The president has mentioned it several times on this trip. But this clearly is a question of more American boots on the ground. There may be some concern about that back home. But he has been told by his military advisors, President Obama, that this would be more effective, certainly in trying to draw more people regionally into the fight against Daesh.
But he was quite clear, these are not boots on the ground. They're there to train people who are already fighting Daesh.
Yeah, but they're also special forces. There are people who are doing things like coordinating airstrikes, liaising with the local forces at times of advance. They're spotters for artillery. These are people not necessarily leading the charge into village clearing operations, but they are there pretty close to those who are doing the fighting. So I think it is a significant increase in the presence there. And we will see how effective that will be. I think there is a feeling that they were reaching a turning point in the fight against Daesh in Syria, and now there is some a moment which needs to be grasped to better improve the coordination of all the different factions on the ground.
Okay, Simon, moving on to other aspects of the speech, Obama a number of times saying that the world and the US, what they needed was a united Europe, a prosperous Europe, and Europe must stand together as one. Is this a hint at the upcoming referendum in Britain about whether they should leave the EU?
Yes, I think it clearly is that. It's one that, of course, he spoke so eloquently about in London before he arrived in Germany. It's a clear concern of his and of his administration, the possibility of Britain, the United Kingdom, leaving when they vote in this referendum at the end of June. I think here, yes, he meant that, but he also meant a reference to the wider forces at play throughout the European Union at the moment. It's not only the British, let's not forget, that have significant Eurosceptic political movements. You can point to France, you can even point to Germany, local elections, regional elections, all the parties that want to throw back some of the integration, some of the union from Brussels, some of the integration that President Obama kept referring to. Those parties are doing well. Yesterday in Austria on Sunday, a presidential candidate from an extreme right-wing party doing extremely well. It's happening across Europe. I think the President was referring to that, not only the UK referendum issue.
There was also a very clear message to Europe about the migrant crisis, how Europe must stand together on the migrant crisis. They must be more tolerant as well.
Yes, I think that we understood in advance that we were going to get some pretty strong rhetoric from the president in support of Angela Merkel. You'll remember that last year, during the height of the migration crisis, Angela Merkel, in a sense, broke ranks from her European partners and opened the gates of Germany to, in the end, over 1 million refugees and migrants fleeing war and persecution across the Middle East and beyond. Controversial at home, not popular despite her general popularity, this has hit her politically, and I think that this was a very concerted, calculated attempt by the president to say, no, she's right. She did the right thing, and her example should be followed. Don't forget, this has been an incredibly contentious issue across Europe. People have criticised her both at home and abroad. People have refused to share. There have been various European Union attempts to try and distribute refugees throughout the European Union. Many countries have simply refused. He here was clearly siding with Angela Merkel and supporting her position. That will go down well with her and her advisors, of course.
Yes, indeed. Simon, what did you make of the speech overall? It was a very long speech, very eloquent, touched on many, many issues. And some are seeing this visit that he's made perhaps a farewell, Obama's farewell to Europe, essentially, because, you know, he's only got a few more months left in office now.
That's right. It is part of a goodbye tour. I doubt he'll be in Germany again before his time is out. We had expected him to give a very strong speech, both on the connection between the United States and Europe, both as a sort of guarantee of European security, but also at the level of, you know, ideals and philosophy and history that he delivered on. Because there is a sense in Europe that since he came to office, not that he's neglected European connections, but he hasn't been here as often. He has tilted America towards the Pacific, towards other markets, towards other strategic partnerships. And some in Europe have felt a degree of abandonment, I guess, and I think that he was sensitive to that. So it wasn't a surprise that we had this very strong speech, re-emphasizing the connection, reassuring, if you like, European partners that the Americans still take this relationship extremely strongly. But I think there was an element of warning, an element of chiding, if you like, particularly on the issue of security. It's no secret that the Americans, in particular within the NATO structure, have long felt that the Europeans haven't been pulling their weight. Don't forget, in NATO's membership deal, every country that is a member has to spend 2% of its gross domestic product on defense. The Americans spend far more than that, and many Europeans don't do it. And so we did get a line in that speech, didn't we, about, yeah, don't take for granted what you have, and in terms of security, you need to do a little bit more. Lots of reassurance, lots of rhetorical flourishes referencing the close historical connections between the United States and Europe, an integrated Europe. Clearly that's a priority for the United States, but also a little bit of warning not to take it for granted and do more on defense, basically.
Okay, Simon, many thanks for talking us through that speech that President Obama has just concluded there in Hannover in Germany.